Welcome to the True Man Podcast. This is an invitation of radical reconstruction of a man's masculine heart and soul in a place of safe community where we dare to ask questions deep seated inside a man and explore ways to help you become a better man, a better son, a better dad, and a better spouse. Well, thank you for being here with me. I assume as you may be fitting this in around your NCAA basketball games as we get that going this time of year. And I hope your bracket goes better than mine has over the last few years. Man, I used to be somewhat good at this, but boy, easy for somebody who's not even knowledgeable to kick my butt these days. I don't know. Do you feel that way? It's like my 2-year-old niece or nephew can outguess me in these NCAA brackets anymore. But nonetheless, it certainly is something to have a lot of fun with and enjoy both the men's and the women's tournament. Man, they're just such good basketball anymore. Well, let's do a quick little recap here. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been really doing a somewhat of a build-up here, I would call it. We've talked about common sense, courage, and the call back to God, family, and country. On episode 229, we talked about building the American family, one dinner table at a time. And, we're building, ramping this up here. Today we're going to talk about raising children of character in a culture of confusion. But before we do that, let me just say, head on out to my website at truemanlifecoaching.com. On that website, you're going to find my books. You can go to the book page and you check out True Man, True Ways, a roadmap of discovery to the masculine heart. You can sign up for my newsletter on my webpage. And of course, you can find more out about my speaking. If you have a group, both online, in person, and you need a speaker for your men's event, feel free to reach out to me. And, a lot of this is building towards these episodes that I'm putting together right now. So again, please go out to my website, truemanlifecoaching.com. That's where you can get all the latest and greatest. But in addition to that, here in the very near future, as we begin to put this all together, and it's why I'm talking about some of these topics on the podcast, all of this is really leading towards the Power of Asking for Help, the American Family Renaissance Men's Summit. And that's going to be coming out here in the next few weeks. But I really want to lead you towards something that I believe is critically important to the family. And that's why we're calling this a family renaissance, quite candidly, because we need to get back to the things that really made this country great, of God, family, and country. It's why sitting around the dinner table and having dinner table conversations with your family is critically important. And part of that is what's going to happen when you're sitting around that dinner table. Well, you're going to build character into these kids. You should be exemplifying it. Yourself, your wife, together, you're exemplifying character. And with that, you can just build higher quality children. Every parent says they want their children to be successful. Well, at least I hope they're saying that. We want them to do well in school. We want them to find meaningful work. Boy, I really want that for my son right now. And we want them to build a good life. We all want that, right? But let me ask you a deeper question. What kind of character are you raising? Because success without character, well, that's dangerous, is it not? Influence without character is very destructive. And talent without character, well, that eventually collapses. So right now, we are living in a culture that is deeply confused about what character even means, because we just don't see it exemplified in so many things. Truth, well, that just feels negotiable, doesn't it? Integrity, well, that's often optional. We see that at the highest levels of organizations and even in some churches. And responsibility, well, heck, some people would question whether that's even a word because it's often avoided. And young people are growing up in a world where the loudest voices often celebrate attention, popularity, and self promotion rather than humility, courage, and wisdom. I had the news on this morning, and the person, I'd never heard of them, got introduced as an influencer. Now, I've had people call me an influencer. I don't know what the heck an influencer is. Is that even a thing? Is that even a thing? Is that something that we want for ourselves or our children to see? You know, I think that now more than ever, fathers, we need to talk about character and how it's formed because it's not formed by accident. It's really shaped by intentionality. And the home is where that shaping must begin, not with influencers on the internet. You know, the culture that our children are growing up in, it's confusing. It's hard to navigate our kids these days. They are surrounded by these crazy messages often. Follow your feelings. Do whatever makes you happy. Truth is whatever you decide it is. Success means visibility. But you know, feelings change. Happiness comes and goes. And truth that shifts with every opinion is not truth at all. And without a foundation, people just drift. They just drift. And drifting people are easily influenced, aren't they? This is why character matters in our world. You know, character is what anchors a person when the world around them is unstable. Character is what guides decisions when no one is watching. And character is what holds a person steady when pressure comes. But here is the reality: character is not developed in a moment, it is developed in thousands of small decisions over time. Have you experienced that? I know that's been true for me. And fathers have a unique role in building that formation. You know, I think one of the biggest mistakes parents make is assuming that character is taught primarily through instruction. Like somebody in the classroom is going to get up and show it to them. But most character formation happens through what? Observation. What our children watch, what they see, not just on television, probably most importantly, right in your own home. They watch how you respond to frustration. They watch how you treat your spouse. They watch how you speak about people who you disagree with. They watch how you handle success and they watch how you handle failure. I haven't even always done the very best job personally handling all this. I'll just speak from the heart on that. How about you? You know, your life is the loudest lesson that your children are ever going to hear. You know, Paul writes in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1, follow my example as I followed the example of Christ. And you've heard me say this before. This is the True Man podcast. True man coming from Scripture. Jesus Christ walk on earth. Why did we name it that? Well, the best example that I could come up with to follow was Jesus Christ. And so we need to embody that. That is the essence of leadership, modeling, not perfection, but consistency. Your children don't need a flawless father. They need a faithful one. A man who admits when he's wrong, a man who apologizes when he fails, a man who shows them what it looks like to pursue God. The example there shapes character more than lectures ever will. This is part of what you're called to do as a father. Now, why does character qualities matter? Well, there are many virtues worth teaching, aren't there? But I'm going to highlight 5 that are especially critical in this culture of confusion. Integrity. Integrity means doing the right thing even when it costs you something. And let's face it, often does. But that's integrity. It means your private life matches your public life. Proverbs 10, verse 9 says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely." You see, integrity builds trust, and trust builds relationships. Children learn integrity when they see honesty modeled at home. When they see a father who keeps his word, his vows and oaths. And when they see a father refuse to take shortcuts. And these kids, they watch everything. And when they see a father choose what is right over what is easy, these kids are watching. Number 2, responsibility. What is that, you may ask? Well, responsibility is increasingly rare in our culture, isn't it? Blame is common. Excuses are common. But responsibility builds maturity. Galatians chapter 6, verse 5 says this: each one should carry their own load. Children must learn that actions have consequences, that commitments matter, that finishing what you start builds strength. Parents help shape this by giving their children meaningful responsibility. How about this? Chores, commitments, expectations, not as punishment, but really as preparation for adulthood. 3, courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Let me repeat that because I think this is important in our overall lives. Courage is not the absence of fear, but it is the decision to do what is right despite that fear. Joshua chapter 1, verse 9 reminds us, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." One of my favorite verses in the Bible. You know, courage means standing for truth. Courage means resisting peer pressure. Courage means choosing integrity even when others mock it. And children develop courage when fathers affirm it. And when a child tells the truth, even though it's hard, you need to celebrate that. And you need to celebrate it with them. And when they stand up for someone, honor that. Because encouragement strengthens courage. 4, humility. Oh boy, here's a good one too. Humility is deeply misunderstood. It does not mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less. Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 says this: "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself." You see, humility allows people to learn, to listen, to grow. A humble child becomes a teachable adult. Parents cultivate humility by modeling gratitude and respect. Finally, faith. Ultimately, character must be anchored in something deeper than personal opinion. Faith provides that anchor. So Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7 instruct parents. These commandments are to be on your hearts. Impress them on to your children. You see, faith is not something that we outsource to church alone. It must be lived daily. Prayer at the dinner table, Scripture, you can do that at the dinner table as well, but discuss naturally, gratitude expressed openly, faith integrated into everyday life. And when children see faith lived authentically, they know it and it becomes real to them. You see, there's power in a lot of these moments that shape character. It's rarely formed in the dramatic moments, it's often built quietly right there at the good old dinner table. See, you knew I'd bring it back around, right? In car rides, during chores, in moments when children ask questions. You see, those small conversations, well, they shape worldview. For example, when your child sees someone treated unfairly and asks why, well, that moment becomes a character lesson. When your children fails at something and feels a little discouraged, well, that moment can become a lesson in perseverance. And when your child makes a mistake, well, that moment becomes a lesson in responsibility and grace. Parents who are attentive to these moments shape character intentionally. Really critically important. Because if you're screaming and hollering, how do you think that's going to turn out? Now, I will tell you, there have been times in my own life when I realized something humbling. My children were learning more from how I handled pressure than from what I said. Although you could question at times that what I said was crushing defeat as well. But they watched how I responded when things didn't go according to plan. And sometimes I showed up well, and sometimes I didn't. They watched how I spoke about difficult situations, and sometimes I did well, and sometimes I didn't. Can you relate? And I realized something. The way I handled those moments was really shaping their understanding of strength. And that realization on how I approach many of those situations has changed as best I can. I'm leaning into that because leadership at home is not about control. It is about example, and example shapes character. So we need to be the example in our homes and teach our children to think through decisions. You see, character also develops when children are guided through decisions rather than simply being told what to do. We need to ask questions and guide them and direct them, but we need to give them the opportunity to make their own decisions instead of always giving answers. Ask those questions. Questions like, what do you think the right thing to do is? What would happen if you made that choice? How would that affect other people? What does Scripture say about that situation? These questions really help children develop moral reasoning, and they learn to evaluate situations thoughtfully, and they learn how to connect values with actions. And you see, over time, that thinking becomes internalized, embedded in them, and they will make solid choices, which is what I think you want to guide them to do anyway. One of the greatest challenges I think young people face today is identity confusion. And I talk about this quite often. It's something that I've faced and gone through. They are constantly told to define themselves based on current trends, popularity, and feelings. But identity rooted in shifting culture is really unstable. Identity rooted in God, on the other hand, is very secure. I think a lot of young people are coming to this recognition. And Psalm 139 reminds us that each person is created intentionally. And when children understand that they are created by God, loved by God, and called by God, their identity really becomes anchored in it. And of course, that foundation helps them resist cultural pressure. because they know who they are and they know whose they belong to. Really important stuff. So here's the challenge, fathers. Men out there, we are raising children of character, and that does not require perfection from you, but it does require intentional leadership. It means being present, being engaged, being willing to guide conversation. Of course, being willing to model integrity and being willing to correct with love. It also means asking yourself a very honest question. If your children become exactly like you, would you be proud of that character they carry into the world? Now, that question is not meant to shame you. What it's designed to do is inspire growth. Because fatherhood is one of the most powerful leadership roles that a man will ever have. And you see, character formation really takes time, doesn't it? Years, I would dare say, sometimes decades. You know, parents may not see full fruit immediately, but seeds planted consistently grow if they're taken care of, if they're watered, if they get the right sunlight, right? Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6 says this: train up a child in the way he should go, and he is old. And then when he's old, he will not depart from it, right? Planting seeds. Notice the word train in there. Training involves repetition, practice, correction, encouragement, growth. Character is very much built the same way. Just imagine a generation raised without integrity, a generation that values, fumbled that one big time. Imagine a generation raised with integrity. How about that? A generation that values truth, a generation that takes responsibility, a generation that has courage to stand for what's right, a generation grounded in faith. You see, that kind of generation would transform communities, wouldn't it? And those communities would strengthen a nation that so desperately needs it. But that transformation does not begin in politics. It begins right in our homes with fathers who lead intentionally. So, as I begin to wrap up here, here's a few final thoughts. The culture, it may be confused, and I would dare say it is confused, but your home doesn't have to be. Your family can be a place where character is valued, where truth is pursued, where faith is lived, where integrity is expected, and where children grow into men and women who carry those values out into the world beyond your lifetime. Friend, that is a calling. Raising children of character is important in a culture of confusion. One conversation, one decision, one faithful example at a time. Well, that's critically important to you raising children in this culture. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's True Man podcast. I think all these things are important for our homes, for us as fathers to talk about, to learn about from each other. From each other. We all have different strengths. I would encourage you to take these topics back into your men's small group and discuss. Go deep with them. Learn from each other. And you will start bettering your best and becoming a better man and a better father and a better husband as a result. And if you'd like to learn more, just reach out to me. I'm Mike at truemanlifecoaching.com. And you can always go to my website, truemanlifecoaching.com, and get on my calendar from my website. Well, again, hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, please leave me a great review on your favorite podcast channel. And I want to encourage you this week, be intentional with your children. Sit down at the dinner table, model character, and just watch them flourish and grow. With that, go out and make this your very, very best day ever. God bless you, and thank you for listening.